Oh, look, he's back to making content creation. I thought you were quitting content. Me. Says all of the people who completely misinterpreted my last video because no one ever listens to a fucking word that I have to say. Hello everyone, my name is JoJo, amateur historian, professional storyteller, and monumental yapper, and I hope you're all doing well. There is a very good chance that you, currently watching this video, have been a subscriber or a viewer of mine before, because when this video goes live, this channel that you see is completely empty. No shorts, no previous videos, no anything, just 40 subscribers left over from a failed project that no longer exists on YouTube. And it will be posted to the Discord, where the vast majority of you that are currently watching this video spend most of your lives. The first thing that I wanted to do on this channel was give you all a full, genuine explanation. Something that I didn't do because the last video that I ever made on that previous channel, titled "I'm Abandoning This Channel," was very emotionally charged. It was something that I didn't put a lot of thought into. I just realized that I had been putting off the decision for far too long, and I didn't want to just up and leave, so I made that last video, and that will forever be the last video ever uploaded to that channel. So I wanted to tell you why I abandoned that channel, and there's going to be a lot of questions, of course, which you're welcome to leave in the description down below. But there are two main overarching reasons that I left that channel behind. One logistical and one metaphorical. And depending on how long this video goes on, I will leave timestamps in the description down below, which it's likely to go on because, as many of you know, I have a tendency to yap for absolute ages. So let's start off with the logistical. And very simply put, it is because of the all-magical algorithm. Now, everything that I'm about to explain to you is basically two things. One, oversimplification for the purposes of as much brevity as I possibly can make. And two, educated guesswork. Unfortunately, YouTube has never fully released how their algorithm works to us, so the only thing that we actually have as creators is other creators who have been doing this for a long time, and they have did deep dives into the way that things perform. Many of them have created 10, 15 plus channels just trying to figure out everything. So let's go ahead and jump into how the algorithm works, and then I'll explain why the algorithm is part of the reason, although you'll probably get it before the end. So let's say you, humble viewer, have started a brand new YouTube channel. You have 0 subscribers, and you begin making content around cooking. Cooking is the content that you're doing. You're up in there chopping and dicing onions, you're rambling on about protein and macro counts, you're mirroring Josh Wiseman's fast cut editing, something like that. Through all of your hard work, you have amassed roughly 500 subscribers from cooking, and every single cooking video you upload will go out to those subscribers. However, you decide one day that you're tired of making cooking content. You're tired of always keeping your kitchen clean. You're exhausted of not being able to just come home and cook a meal without it running through your brain. This could be content, this could be content, this could be content. So you decide to switch up and transfer into live music, right? You film yourself DJing or playing something on the guitar, and then you put that out there, and your channel starts growing. It booms even, and you're excited. You go 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 subscribers off of your live music, but you started with cooking. The reason you were able to make that pivot, and that pivot was so successful, was because you did the pivot before you reached what I will call the subscriber algorithm number. Essentially what happens is this: before you hit a certain subscriber count, YouTube just sends your videos off to people who have shown interest in similar videos. So if we use the cooking analogy, and let's say you are like me, you are white and male presenting, anytime anybody has ever watched a Josh Wiseman video or a Babish video or a Mythical Kitchen video, any of those videos, the algorithm remembers all of it. And yes, race and gender presentation are important to the algorithm. They remember the hashtags, the subject matter, the thumbnails, the music, the lighting. They remember the editing. It remembers the editing style. It remembers your race, your gender presentation. It remembers your cadences. It remembers all of these things, and it does its very best to continue that through line. This is why, if you're a viewer who is baffled that basically all of your feed is just white people, you have to actively force the algorithm to show you black people by going out and watching black creators. I'll put some of my recommendeds up on screen somewhere, some of my personal favorite ones that you can go check out after this video, but that's basically how it works. Once you hit a certain subscriber threshold, the algorithm then focuses on your subscribers' engagement. So back when you were that 500 subscriber cooking channel, the algorithm was just sending your video to people interested in cooking. It was sending it to your subscribers, every one of your subscribers, by the way. It's a myth that your subscribers don't all get your video. They do. They just don't realize it because they don't scroll down far enough. But anyway, the point is that it was sending it out to your 500 subscribers, and then let's say, for simplicity's sake, another 500 randos, and seeing how many interact. But let's say your cooking channel hit 1,000 subscribers. Or even 1,500. Let's say 1,500. That sounds like a more reasonable number. Now, the algorithm is only sending it out to those 1,500 subscribers. No more random people are seeing your video. The only way they will see your video is if your subscribers click on that video. If your subscribers don't, let's say that you released cooking videos, and then all of a sudden you released a video of you playing a cover of Gethsemane by Sleep Token. Not as many of those 1,500 are going to click on that because they subscribe to you for cooking. They want to see you cutting onions, not crying like you just cut onions. That was a lame joke. But the point is that the less of your subscribers that click on your video, the less traction it gets. Basically what happens is, for every subscriber that clicks on and interacts with your video and shows interest in it, the algorithm pushes that video out to, say, 2 people. Again, simplicity for brevity's sake. It's probably far more complicated than that because there's also watch time. It's weird. The point is that for every one of your subscribers that interacts with your videos, the algorithm pushes it out to a non-subscriber. And then when a non-subscriber interacts, it pushes it out to another one, and another one, and another one, and it keeps going down the line. Until eventually, your view count just kind of wanes out, and it plateaus. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, that's not true, Mr. Video Creator, because I made a video that stopped at 20 views, and then 3 years later, it went up to 100. Explain that one. Well, it's very simple. What happens is whenever a lot of people start watching a subject matter, the algorithm will try to take your video and push it to those people. So I'm going to be a history channel here on this channel. Let's say I make a video on King Henry VIII and it plateaus out at 300 views. King Henry VIII is pretty popular, no name channel, probably 300 views, and then it just stops. 2 years later, a bigger history channel, or a bigger educational channel, let's say Milo Rossi, makes a King Henry VIII video. Milo Rossi's King Henry VIII video gets seen by 1.5 million people, or however many people watch Milo Rossi videos. I should know this because I'm like one of Milo Rossi's biggest fans. I actually hope to collaborate with him one day on this channel. It's not the point. The point is that 1.5 million people watch this King Henry VIII video. YouTube is going to start showing them more King Henry VIII videos. So a smaller channel makes a video on King Henry VIII, they click on that one. Then a slightly smaller one, they click on that one. And eventually it gets back down to me with 300 views and 100 subscribers, and it goes, oh, try this one. And then maybe those people will click on it, and then that's how that works. So by this point, you've probably already figured out what I'm talking about. My old channel, my main channel, as it were, was basically gaming related. I kept trying to pivot off, and if you noticed, every time I tried to pivot off of video games, my views plummeted. My views plummeted because the people who were subscribed to that channel, roughly 5,000 of the 6,000 subscribed to that channel, were there for Dead by Daylight content. And I don't blame them for not clicking on every video I put out, because as it stands, my fan base, my loyal fan base, I really hate the word loyal, but my loyal fan base, they are pretty much comprised of about 30 people. Those 30 people are the only ones watching every single video I upload. And I'm grateful for all 30 of you. especially because you're probably the only ones watching this video. But the point is that I don't begrudge anybody for the way that it turned out. It just happens to be that if I made anything that wasn't gaming related, the chances of people clicking on that video were way too small. I dug myself a hole when I built a large subscriber base off of video game content, and specifically one video game, Dead by Daylight. So that's the logistical reason. If I want this type of content to concede, my fairy tales, folklore, historical videos, any kind of educational science communication, I need to start a new channel. That's why at one point I had 4 channels, because it was all types of content I wanted to make. The second reason that I decided to start a new channel is metaphorical, in a sense. I want to take you guys back for just a brief moment to late 2019. Earlier that year, I went through what was essentially the worst time in my life. My ex-wife, who at the time I still loved very deeply, and even to this day, 7 years later, I still care for her to some degree, had left me. She was much more concerned with other men. There was another guy whispering in her ear, telling her to leave me, and she listened to him, and it is what it is. My father died about a month after her and I separated. I became homeless, lost my job, and it was overall pretty rough. When the end of 2019 came, I had gotten a job at the casino, and I basically purchased the trailer we're currently living in. My mom and I did. We came together, decided that we wanted to own our own home, and that's what we're in now. Losers on the internet will tell you that this is my mother's trailer, but that's because they don't know anything about my life. The truth is, this is my trailer, my home. My name's on the title because I bought it with my own money. In the beginning of 2020, as many of you know, COVID hit. And when it did, I decided to spend $947.38 of the stimulus check that many members of the United States of America got and build my very first PC. It was a promise to myself to take my content creation seriously. It was the final sentence of the first page of the new chapter in my life, I guess is the way to put that. The new chapter consisted of a new job, a new place to live, a new lifestyle. For the first time in my life, my father wasn't here. The woman that I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with no longer cared about me. I was in a strange state with no one else, really, but one person. And so, this seemed like a great time to start a new career path, to go back to the idea that I always had from when I was little and become a stand-up comedian by using the internet as my catalyst. As it turns out, I'm pretty bad at keeping to a coherent schedule if it's not daily, and that kind of sucks. But with the money that I was making from the casino, I was able to hire an editor. And near the tail end of 2020, early 2021, my editor suggested that I start a new channel for gaming, because my original channel, which back then was titled That One Guy Kaiser and then eventually Kaiser DeBard after I came out as non-binary, I was doing too much. I was trying to do IRL commentary, storytelling content, and video game content, and the algorithm just simply doesn't work that way. And so I started the channel most of you are familiar with. I started the Kaiser to Gamer channel, which back then was called Whiffmaster General, and it was going to be focused on FPS games, but that quickly changed. Yada yada yada, blah blah blah, 1, 2, skip a few, try not to waste too much of your time. I ended up making the channel about Dead by Daylight and hyper-growing my audience. And at the risk of sounding ungrateful, I regret that decision basically every day since middle of 2024. Dead by Daylight is a double-edged sword for me. I don't think double-edged sword is the analogy. Anyway, it's a coin flip. Let's use a coin flip, right? Dead by Daylight's a coin flip. On one side of the coin, the winning side, let's say tails, because I like chasing tail. That was another lame joke. Don't laugh at that. Is the side of a game that I fell in love with because it was so fun and interesting to me at first. It is the game that launched my ability to support myself off of content for the entirety of 2024. It is the game that brought me some very dear friends and a community that I love and care about very much. It is the game that changed my life, essentially. On the other hand, on the head side, which I also like receiving heads, so maybe we'll make whatever. I'm overthinking the analogy. The point is that on the other side of that coin was frustration and anger. A game that had a dev team that didn't give a shit. A game that didn't work properly most of the time. I had, for as many fans as I had attracted, I had also attracted a pretty big hater base. People who dedicated unnatural portions of their lives and their time to harassing me, calling me slurs, telling me to off myself. People who would screenshot my video and go onto Reddits and talk about the video basically at face value, just based off the title alone. People who were extremely homophobic toward me and transphobic toward me. People who basically made my life miserable. I had to deal with them quite often. And then the situation that I'm not going to get into, you guys know by now. The doxing, the slander, the hate campaigns basically kicked the harassment into high gear. All of a sudden, instead of the normal weirdo every, week or so, I was dealing with daily harassment. People coming into my Discord DMs, sending me fucking literal emails telling me to kill myself. People accusing me of horrendous things that I had never done and that there was no evidence of me ever doing. All because one guy got his feelings hurt. I regret Dead by Daylight because I regret ever pursuing gaming as a potential career path. Gaming is easy. If you're not making it as a gaming creator, I promise you're just doing something incorrectly, and it's an easy fix that you could probably figure out with enough time. Whether it be your thumbnails or your titles or whatever, gaming is incredibly easy to get popular in. All you have to do is look at the game you're playing and then follow that trend, and you'll grow. Because people who watch video game content are very, very, very predictable. Because I regretted gaming as a career path, I tried several times to pivot out of it. Commentary, re-uploading my life stories, and eventually fairy tale, folklore, and history. And every time those videos would not perform well, I knew it was because of the algorithm, which I talked about in the last section. So when I made that video, abandoning this channel, basically, I did it with the express idea that I was closing the book on that chapter in my life. The chapter where I wanted to be a stand-up comedian, and I spent that money on a new PC, and a powerful upgraded PC, and I dedicated hours, dozens upon dozens of hours a day, sometimes, to dozens upon dozens. There's only 24 hours in a day. Dozens of a dozen or so hours a day to content creation. It's a chapter I'm ready to leave behind. The good and the bad. And I'm ready to move forward. Never uploading to that channel again is a symbolic gesture for me to want to pursue my passion in life that I've had since I can remember, which is storytelling and education. This is the new chapter. When I was in high school, my science teacher did something that, to this day, I'm not really sure what it had to do with science. I'm sure there's some sort of psychological thing involved, but I would have expected more out of a social studies teacher. What she did was she gave each of us a piece of paper with a classmate's name on it. And she asked us all to list 5 traits that make us think of that classmate. And then we were to give that paper to that classmate and see what they agreed with. And thankfully, my paper did not end up in the hands of one of my many bullies. It ended up in the hands of this girl named Sarah. And Sarah was very kind, very sweet. She was not one of the girls I had a crush on, but I could see why somebody would, just because of how absolutely amazing she was as a person. She wrote down funny, dramatic, articulate, intelligent, and bard. And I remember when I got to that last one, I said, a bard? I mean, I was in choir. I played the guitar and percussion, so drums. So I guessed. And she said, no. She said, like a storytelling bard. Like one who likes to be grand with the way they say things. And I remember laughing, not because I thought it was ridiculous, but because it was quite possibly one of the greatest descriptions of myself I had ever heard. And I took that into the future. And if I could add a 6th one, I would have put educator, because I loved teaching people. I loved giving people tools and giving fun facts and just guiding people through the truth. It was always one of my favorite things to do. So much that I became a teacher's aide in high school to my social studies teacher, and social studies was always my favorite subject. My 3 favorite things to study in the world are history, mythology, and English literature. And I remember in 2011, I was 17 years old. So in 2011, I watched a channel that many of you probably know called Vsauce. And I was so encapsulated by Michael's teaching that I realized I could be a teacher on YouTube. All I had to do was get my degree. But when you grow up in poverty, you don't get a degree. You don't get a special paper that says you know what you're talking about. And even though I know I'm smart, and I know I'm capable of research, and I know that I'm capable of teaching, I never got to go get that degree. So I never pursued it. But every so often, when I was alone in my room, or I was taking a walk, or driving a car, or sitting in a park, or whatever, I would picture myself in front of a classroom, guiding young minds through the wondrous stories that history has to tell. Of course, my author channel still exists. I am still doing the poetry everyday challenge over on that channel, which is coming along quite nicely. There we go. I finished day 12. Today is day 13, which I have not written it yet, but I will do so. And of course, my short stories have made a return over there. I finished a full-length novel earlier this year, which, due to unfortunate circumstances, which I might do a video on, I'm not sure, I am not able to publish anytime soon. But I am working on another full-length novel that will be eligible for publication based off of the several agents that I talked to. So, with that in mind, being an author is still on the table. But in between my writings and my story crafting, I will be making videos on historical figures, historical events, mythologies, You know, I'll go through and look at fairy tales and folklores and legends, and I'll come back and I'll tell you all of these wonderful stories that exist in humankind, because I firmly believe that life is better with knowledge. I have 3 goals in my life. I want to, 1, become a full-time author. I want to be able to write books and short stories and poetry and make money doing it, whether that's through a publication or people watching my narrations on YouTube, which eventually I'm going to have to find an editor for those, because God, I hate editing the music for those things. It's such a pain in the ass. 2, I want to grow this channel. I want to teach you guys about the wonderful stories throughout human history. I want to be able to craft for you narratives that allow you to walk away smarter and more understanding. And number 3, I want to own my own bookstore. Every single penny that I make off of YouTube, Twitch, when I finally do sell some of my stories to a publisher, publishing will all be going towards saving up to put a down payment on a small business loan and buy a bookstore and own it and run it. So, I'd like to welcome you all to the new chapter in my life, and thank you all for your involvement in the last one. I look forward to giving you all new content with a new outlook on life. But first, I gotta re-upload all the old videos from the channel that's abandoned to this one, so look forward to that. I love you all so much, and I'll see you in the next one.